a.m., which starts in 30 seconds.
Holding, gets around in front. Joel Embiid intercepted.
And Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM, right here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. And make sure you do me a favor. Head on over to the DSM Media YouTube page. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, the comment button, the follow button, everything right over there on the DSM Media YouTube page as we continue our trek to 700 subscribers, which is just another step on the way to 1,000. I'm Phil Stifle, your host this morning. We've got lots to talk about. I had all intentions of today being a Sixers-centric show. Sixers played the Raptors last night. They won last night in overtime. Thought that was going to be the centerpiece, the starting point, the jumping off point of today's show. Not the case, because obviously we got Joe Bucci already checking in. I'm all in against Dallas. Rest the guys. If they lose, will Hurts be available? Yeah. We got to figure this all out. So yesterday, breaking news, yesterday afternoon, Jalen Hurts sprained his shoulder in the win over the Bears, somewhere in the third quarter, I believe it was. He took a really hard hit, driven down on his shoulder. And there were so many, after Adam Schefter reported the initial injury, there were so many rumors running rampant. Broken collarbone, separated shoulder. No. Nick Sirianni has cleared the air. It is a sprained shoulder. It is not super serious, but it is an injury. And it's very, very unlikely that Jalen Hurts plays on Saturday, Christmas Eve, against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Eagles situation right now, they need to win one more game or Dallas to lose one more game to lock up the division. And by locking up the division, they lock up the first-round bye in the playoffs as well. This was supposed to be the big game. You take care of the Cowboys, you win the division, then you coast the last couple of weeks. You have your bye, you rest your guys up. But now the reins are going to have to be turned over to Mr. Gardner Minshew Mania on Christmas Eve. Now, just before the show, I was listening to my guy Jake, Talking 215, great podcast, another great content creator. We've worked together plenty of times. He's actually, I'm impressed. He's got a doctor on call, a surgeon, an orthopedic surgeon. And he had his orthopedic surgeon on last night as an emergency thing to kind of get information. And from listening to that conversation, separated shoulder. What is it? What's the problem? Obviously, it's not ideal that it's his right shoulder, his throwing arm. But a majority of what I've heard, and from the Talking 215 doctor or orthopedic surgeon, whoever it was that they had on, it's more of a pain tolerance thing than anything else. And we know Jalen Hurts can manage the pain, can handle the pain. There's a legit scenario where he sits on Saturday against the Cowboys. And if the job doesn't get done, if Gardner Minshew can't get the win and lock it up, that he could play in 2 weeks against the Saints, which is an important-ish game because it helps our draft position because we've owned their first-round pick. But realistically speaking, Gardner Minshew should be able to beat the Saints. So just say Gardner Minshew beats the Cowboys or the Saints in a starting role. Then you got the final week against the Giants where you wouldn't need Jalen Hurts anymore. You could rest him then too. But then you would have the bye, and that would be 4 weeks off for Jalen Hurts. Now, according to this doctor that I was listening to being interviewed by Jake, 2 weeks, 3 weeks max, he should be fine. If he has 4 weeks of rest, he's 100% ready for the playoffs. So the question becomes, do you rest Jalen Hurts for 4 weeks? You get him 100%, risk the rust come the playoffs, which it could be the Dallas Cowboys again in the playoffs. Read an article yesterday somewhere along the social media internet world that the odds are it's either going to be the Cowboys, the Patriots, or Detroit in the divisional round. That's just the way currently it looks like it's shaping up based off of matchups and things. There are three most likely opponents. The Bucks obviously knocked us out last year in the wild card round. It'd be interesting to get to face them again with this newer team. But do you really want to risk Jalen Hurts getting hurt anymore, or do you really want to risk that kind of rust? There's some really interesting thought processes there. So we got right into the injury a little bit. We're going to keep talking about it. The thing that I see floating around the internet the most is who to blame for the injury. And it's something that kind of annoys me a little bit. I really don't think you could blame any one person for this injury. Yes, obviously, you ran Jalen Hurts 17 times against the Bears. When you've got an 1,000-yard rusher, Miles Sanders, going up against the worst, or one of the worst rush defenses in the Chicago Bears. So, yeah, you want to blame Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni for their bad game plan. I get it. He shouldn't have been. We've been talking about it since last year. You can't let your quarterback take the amount of hits that he takes, the amount of designed runs, the amount of draw plays up the middle, the amount of hits he just takes in general. It's asking for this kind of situation to happen. But if you take that away from Jalen Hurts, you're taking away one of your biggest weapons. If you tell Jalen Hurts you don't want him running more than 5 times a game, he's still developed into a very good passer, but that's just taking away who Jalen Hurts is. Jalen Hurts is always going to want to be the guy that puts the team on his back and his shoulders and runs for the first down. He's always going to be the guy that runs up the middle and takes the hard hit. He's not going to slide. I mean, he's a beast. He's thick as can be. He's stronger than most linebackers and safeties that are tackling him anyway. You want to blame people. I get it. You want to blame Jalen Hurts for not sliding more frequently. But everything that makes Jalen Hurts great, you're changing by trying to change the kind of quarterback he is. Let's go back in time. Donovan McNabb. He was a thick, strong guy, running quarterback. And everybody wanted to turn him into a pocket passer. And that's where Wormball guy came from. They used to call him Wormball. He used to throw those worm killers into the ground. I just don't understand. Like, everybody complains so much about wanting to change who Donovan was. And then after we changed him into who we wanted him to be, complained he wasn't good enough as that person. And it affected who he was as a quarterback. Trying to make him something he wasn't. So do you really want to change who Jalen Hurts is? And I don't think that's what you do. I think you let Jalen Hurts be who he is. And you don't throw blame. Like I said, 17 rushes to 11 from Miles Sanders. The discrepancy there, yes, that's a problem. But there have been games where that Miles Sanders has run the ball plenty of times. The injury could have happened in any of those games. When you have a guy like Jalen Hurts, you just have to understand that there's potential for an injury. There's potential for 1 or 2 weeks of the year where he's going to be banged up. He's never going to be 100%. No quarterback's 100% come playoffs. But you got to understand, Jalen Hurts is going to get worn down every year. And yeah, you got to find a way to protect him. But you also got to find a way to just understand that this is part of the play. This is part of it all. This is why Howie Roseman values the quarterback 2 position so highly. I guarantee you he got trade requests and trade calls for Gardner Minshew before the season. Hell, at the trade deadline. I guarantee teams were calling and be like, yo, you want to give us, what do you want for Gardner Minshew? And we talked about this in the offseason. You know, what would you trade him for? And we specifically said on the show, whoever was with me on the shows that we discussed this, you can't let him go for a 5th or 6th or 7th round pick because you need a viable number 2. We've seen it now. Obviously, the big picture, Nick Foles stepping in and winning us a Super Bowl. But there were other years where Nick Foles stepped in for injured Carson Wentz. Having Josh McCown at 39 years old have to step in a playoff game, they didn't value the backup position well enough. And guess what happens? Wentz got that terrible sack concussion from Jadeveon Clowney, and Josh McCown had to come in against Seattle and couldn't get the job done. Now, I'm not saying Gardner Minshew is the superstar, but he's a really good backup quarterback to have. We saw it last year. Minshew Mania. Everybody was still questioning who Jalen Hurts was. How there are people in this offseason that wanted Minshew starting over Hurts this year. That's the quality of a backup that you have. You've got a guy in Gardner Minshew who could step in this great system, which is a lot of people that say the system is what makes Jalen Hurts so good, not Jalen Hurts, which is a total load of bullshit. And the thing that's really going to piss me off is if Gardner Minshew comes in and beats the Cowboys this weekend on Christmas Eve, which there's a lot of people that say, oh, it doesn't matter. Minshew's going to win it too. Let's be honest. Dallas is still a damn good team. I know they just lost to Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's better than their record, and they've got a great coach, and they've got a young quarterback starting to find his footing a little bit in the NFL. Dallas is a damn good football team. They're not to the elite level that the Eagles with Jalen Hurts were playing at. Their defense isn't as good. They're not as talented position by position as the Eagles are. But they're still a damn good football team. There's a reason why they have 10 wins, and they're still in play for the division. But if Gardner Minshew comes in and beats the Cowboys and locks up the division, of course that's going to everyone to see. Jalen Hurts is not that good. It was just a product of the system. And I'm not suggesting that they go out there and lose to help solidify Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is it's very important to have a really quality backup quarterback. And obviously last year he had to come in and start a game. It was against the Jets. And I pulled up the box scores from that game. What was that box score? I know it was the Jets. I know Zach Wilson was still pretty wrong green. He still is pretty wrong green now. They were 3-9 after that game. We went in there and won 33-18 against the Jets. And it wasn't even that close, really. I know the Jets had a first quarter lead, but it wasn't that close. But what happened in that game? And mind you, this was a different team last year than this year. Jalen Reagor was still starting on this team last year. You didn't have A.J. Brown. So what did Gardner Minshew do? He threw 20 of 25, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. A very efficient game. But what they did, they threw the ball 25 times. But what they also did was they ran the ball 41 times. Miles Sanders had 24 rushes. Kenneth Gainwell had 12. So you had 174 yards on 36 carries from your 2 running backs. Minshew had a couple runs, probably mostly scrambles. Jalen Reagor got a run for 0 yards. Go figure. Big surprise. Last year, Jalen Reagor had 1 rush in this game for 0 yards, and Jalen Reagor had 1 catch for 7 yards. Go figure. Go figure that Jalen Reagor had a bad game at that moment. Yeah. Real surprise there. We got A.J. Brown now. Okay. Much different team. But Nick Sirianni was smart enough. When you go to your backup quarterback, you run the ball, you set the tone, you control the clock. Wonder what the time of possession was like in that game. Let me go to team stats here. Time possession. Dominated. 35.5 minutes to 24.5 minutes that the Jets had it. Go figure. That Nick Sirianni was smart enough as a rookie coach. When they won against the Jets last year, that only put them at 6-7. It wasn't like they were setting the world on fire like right now. He was a young, inexperienced coach, still questioning how things worked. And he was being questioned by us on a weekly basis. So what's not to think that he's going to be just as smart this week against Dallas to know you got a quarterback, a backup quarterback, who I know everybody loves Minshew Mania. Everyone loves the emotion, the energy that he brings, and he's a damn good back. Somebody tweeted at me before the show started that he would probably start on 6 or 7 teams around the NFL right now. Now, I don't know about 6 or 7 teams around the NFL, but how many teams would he start on right now? Would he start on the Jets over Zach Wilson or Mike White? Maybe. He'd be starting in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson injured if he was the backup, but he wouldn't be over him. Would he be starting in Pittsburgh over Kenny Pickett? Yeah, maybe. Houston, he would definitely be starting in. Would he still starting over Matt Ryan? Probably not. Not the Jags, not the Titans. I'm looking around this league here. The teams that are on their backup quarterbacks, yeah, he'd be starting for them. I mean, obviously, Geno Smith has had a good year, but they would have probably rather Gardner than Geno to start the year. The Saints, same thing. Panthers, Falcons, obviously. Train wrecks right now at the quarterback position. So, yeah, there's 4 or 5 teams that Gardner Minshew could for sure be starting on right now. But let's not think that he's some top 15 quarterback in the NFL. His rookie year, yeah, he was 6-1 his rookie year. Or no, 6-6 his rookie year. Sorry. But then he went in his second year with the Jags and went 1-7. Now let's understand that Jags team at that point was not good. They didn't have a lot of talent, and he wasn't starting every week. And it was kind of like the Jets situation, going back and forth from Mike White to Zach Wilson to throw Joe Flacco in their occasion. They were kind of in that same situation, the Jags at that point. They didn't know what they were doing. They know what they're doing now, the Jags. Doug Peterson solidifying that culture down there, which we're going to get into that phrase culture in a minute here. But Gardner Minshew is exactly what you need. And let me tell you something, I'm excited for Christmas Eve. If you watched that Jets game last year, and then after that Jets game, the video came out of him hugging his dad and getting emotional, then you hear the reports that he went to the locker room, he went to the office of Nick Sirianni and wanted him to reevaluate the depth chart because he wants to be a starter. Now, having Gardner Minshew is a great option. But let's be honest, he comes out and wins this game against Dallas, he's not going to be the backup next year unless Harry Roseman wants to overpay him. He does want an opportunity to start. And he's only 26 years old, so he's still pretty young. So he is going to want that opportunity at some point, again in his career. And you don't want somebody on your team that is content to be a backup. You want guys that want to fight for that starting role all the time, obviously. But Nick Sirianni knows how to handle this backup quarterback situation. And I fully intend to see him have a game plan on Saturday against the Dallas Cowboys where he doesn't put the whole game on Gardner Minshew's shoulders. He's going to rely heavily on that offensive line to run block. You're going to see Miles Sanders, not with 11 rushes, but 20, 25 rushes. At least Gainwell will be part of the game plan. Excuse me. Boston Scott didn't play in the last game that Gardner Minshew started. I don't know if he was hurt still last year at that point. Can Dallas improve their seeding? Dallas can win the division still, Joe. They need all the Eagles got to do is win one game. Or if Dallas loses one game, Dallas needs to win out to win the division and win the number 1 seed. The Eagles just have to win one game. So Dallas, I do have Dallas' schedule up here. They got us. Then after us this on Saturday, then they've got the Titans on the 29th. So they've got a short week. They got us at home. Then they go on the road for Thursday Night Football against the Titans. And then they got the Washington Commanders the last week of the year. So they close the season on 2 road games. Titans are fighting for their division. Road games on Thursday night are not easy. So, hypothetically speaking, it's going to be really tough for them to win out Dallas, which means that they're going to get that wild card spot, which means we probably face them because they're a good enough team that if they have to go up against the Bucks or whoever wins the NFC South, they're probably going to win that wild card game, even though it'll be a third week. Basically, this is the last home game of the year for Dallas, unless they win out. They're basically going to be on the road for the rest of the season, right into the playoffs. So, can they improve their seeding? Yes, but it's going to be really damn tough for them to do that, Joe. But why is this? Let's refresh the screen here real quick. The importance of having this backup quarterback, it's so important. It is very hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. I get that. But I still don't. I saw some people circling around social media saying, good, that this is all just a ploy to rest Jalen Hurts just so that, he's not facing him 3 times. I don't buy that, Joe. I really don't. It's just something that I don't buy. I know that it's hard to do, but yeah, if he was healthy, I'd be playing him. I wouldn't be worried about beating him 3 times. You worry about winning the game in front of you, and that's it. At least that would be my opinion. Culture, system. Oh, he wants to play Jalen Hurts. And from everything I've read, and like I said, my guys over at Talking 215 had an orthopedic surgeon on talking about this injury yesterday afternoon. And they said that most likely this is not a serious injury. And that realistically speaking, if Saturday was a playoff game, if you can manage the pain tolerance, Jalen Hurts could play. Hell, after the injury occurred, he went 6 for 9, threw for over 100 yards, and rushed for another touchdown. He stayed in there and played through the injury. And it didn't make it any worse. This injury is one of those injuries you can maintain it, and it won't get any worse. Yeah, basically, shoot him up and get him out there. Now, you don't have to do that, though, Joe, because you've got Gardner Minshew. And you've got 3 weeks to win 1 game or hope Dallas loses 1 game. So you don't need to have him tough it out. This is where the coach has to step in, Nick Sirianni, say, look, we have built a great culture here. We have a great system, the best offensive line in football, one of the best wide receiver tandems in football. Hell, we are getting Dallas Goedert back this week. Just going to make the offense even better. We've got a 1,000-yard running back. We got a 1,200-yard receiver. We've got guys with 10 touchdowns all over this team. We've got a defense that leads the league in sacks and interceptions. Probably forced fumbles too. You don't need to push yourself this week, Jalen. The culture is we talked about it, the importance of having a great culture. This team, any sport. Nick Sirianni's done that. Again, I remind you, since he gave the flower speech, which we all criticized, counting the playoffs, they're 20-5. He has developed a system and a culture that every single member of this organization, all 53 men, all the coaches, all the front office people, the locker room attendants, everybody has bought into this culture and system that Nick Sirianni has developed here in Philadelphia. Now, again, yes, him coming in with Gardner Minshew this week and winning affects Jalen Hurts' MVP candidacy. I get that. But I guarantee you Jalen Hurts would say the individual award means nothing to him. That winning that Super Bowl is all that matters. So Nick Sirianni's got to be able to say to him, I know you want to play. I know you want to tough it out. But you don't have to. We got your back. There's no need. Now, the bigger question to me is, say Gardner Minshew comes out and wins this week against Dallas. The number 1 seat's locked up. The division's locked up. Do you risk sitting him for 2 more weeks, which hence gives him 4 weeks off, and risk 4 weeks of rust developing? Now, that's the question. Now, if we lock up the division this week and the first round bye and whatnot, I still think I might play him week 18 against the New York Giants. Maybe. You sit him for Dallas. You sit him against New Orleans. You give him 2 full weeks to heal, and then you play him for half a game against the Giants. Very vanilla style, just basic preseason style offense. You do that. You get some of the rust off, then he has another week to heal. If he plays 2 quarters of football over the next 4 weeks, that's better than none. It is something that concerns me. I don't want my quarterback going into the divisional round of the playoffs at home having not thrown a football for 4 weeks. It would be a concern. And it would be the narrative going into the playoff game. And you might risk Jalen Hurts thinking, if he gets a little rusty, getting a little too run happy with the football, which you don't want. Obviously, that's why we're in this situation now. But look, we talked earlier this season about look at how great important it is to have a great culture and system in place. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. They are on their 3rd string quarterback. And I know everyone wants to hype up Brock Purdy, the next Tom Brady, Mr. Irrelevant. Let's be honest. Brock Purdy isn't doing anything special. He's fun, and he's got that Gardner Minshew excitement to him. They got a great culture, a great system, a great offensive line, Christian McCaffrey, a great running back, great wide receivers, the best defense in football because their defense is better than the Eagles' defense. No doubt about it. That great culture that Kyle Shanahan has and John Lynch, the GM there in San Francisco, has developed. That's why they can go from Trey Lance, lose him for the year, move on to Jimmy G Garoppolo, lose him for a portion of the year. Let's go to the 3rd stringer. Why not? Now, I don't think we got Ian Book, who we got from, I think it was with the Saints last year. He's been on our inactive. He's our 3rd string quarterback. I don't know if he's going to step in if something happened to Gardner Minshew. But it's what the point of having a great culture is. The next man up mentality. It's not just that. It's everybody else wanting to. The defense knows going into Saturday against Dallas. Yo, guys, it's on us. Let's not have to let Gardner Minshew have a lot of pressure on him to win this game for us. We're the 2nd best defense in the NFL behind the 49ers. We lead the league in sacks. Yo, you get a sack, you get a sack, you get a sack. We all get sacks. Let's pick Dak Prescott's throwing interceptions left and right. Darius Slay, James Bradbury licking their chops. Get me in there. Let's make it easier for Gardner Minshew. That next man up mentality is part of what building a winning culture is all about. Yeah, look, just a random hypothetical situation. Knock on wood, it doesn't happen. You got Jason Kelce, one of the best centers of all time. Best center in football still. You've drafted his replacement, Cam Jurgens, probably for next year. I'm telling you, the culture that Nick Sirianni has instituted in this locker room. Something happened to Jason Kelce. I almost called him Travis. Jason Kelce. Something happened to him. Yeah, there might be a little hiccup here or there along the road at first. But I wouldn't put it past this team to pick up the pieces with Cam Jurgens in there and just move right along. Nick Sirianni's got them bought into this culture and system. It's such an important thing. People don't realize having that stability in that locker room and leadership-wise. It's so important. It's how you overcome these kind of moments and not panic. Literally, when I heard that Jalen Hurts was hurt, there were the initial rumors that maybe it was a broken collarbone or separated shoulder, which would have put him on the shelf for the rest of the year. Yeah, I got worried and upset a little bit. But then I realized we won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. I know everyone wants to talk highly of Big Nick, Nicky Foles, Nicky Franchise, Saint Nick. He's a terrible starting quarterback. Outside of the 1 year in with Chip Kelly when he went 27 TDs, 2 interceptions, that was more nobody knew how to stop Chip Kelly's offense in the NFL. And then that just went all to shit after that. Nick Foles was not a great starting quarterback. He was a great backup quarterback. He was a mediocre starter. Honestly, when he took over, I mean, we struggled at first. He had really 2 good games as a starting quarterback, Nick Foles. The championship game and the Super Bowl. That was it. But we won a Super Bowl with him. I thought about it. I'm like, look, this is what this Eagles team is built for this moment. It's built to have a winning culture. Built a lot of you all know I love to talk trench football. It's built on a strong offensive and defensive front. And yes, Jalen Hurts was having an MVP season. And you know what? Even if he missed the rest of the season, he would still have my vote for MVP. Even if the Eagles went on and won all the games with Gardner Minshew as the starter, I don't care. You can't take away what Jalen Hurts has done this year. I mean, 3,500 passing yards. He's got over 4,000 all-purpose yards. He's got over 30 all-purpose touchdowns. Still only, 5 interceptions? 4 or 5 interceptions on the season. You can't take that away from him. That's not just culture right there. That's a damn good season. Now, if he doesn't play much the rest of the year and his stats basically stay, yeah, probably Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or my personal opinion, Joe Burrow will probably get the MVP. Shouldn't rule out Justin Jefferson. I know quarterbacks always get the MVP. Justin Jefferson is having a hell of a damn good season in Minnesota. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And he should at least get consideration. And honestly, he should probably be in the top 5 in the conversation at this point. But we're built for this situation. To lose the league MVP. We're built for it. This is what we have, been building towards. We knew this was a possibility all year. When you have a guy that's rushed for double-digit touchdowns and thrown for 20-plus touchdowns, when he is such a focal point of your offense and taking the hits he takes, we knew this was a possibility. And this is exactly why Howie Roseman did not trade Gardner Minshew. He wasn't going to turn the backover reins over to Ian Book. He just wasn't. He did this for one reason. For this situation. Now the line for Saturday's game, we were underdogs, 1.5 point underdogs. I thought that was a little bit of an insult. Now it's gone to like 6.5 in some places. They're really, really favoring the Cowboys now with Gardner Minshew. We'll get into can Gardner Minshew beat the Cowboys throughout the week, because I do want to get to Sixers talk here. But this is not going to be a pushover. I'm still thinking of going and throwing. I don't know what the money line is now. I know it was plus 110 with Hurts still in there. If it's plus 200 or something like that, I'm throwing a shekel or two on it. Because we should be able to trust that this system in place can overcome this. Unless, like I said, the Cowboys are a damn good football team. But they're a flawed football team. And Dak Prescott, could you imagine? We've been having the Jalen Hurts conversation now for a year. Should he be the starter? Should he be the franchise or not? Dak Prescott's been the Cowboys starter for like 7 years now. They're still having the conversation. Hell, they were ready to anoint Cooper Rush the starter. I thought everybody was thinking that Cooper Rush was going to beat the Eagles. But instead, our backup, Gardner Minshew, goes in and beats the Dallas Cowboys. That would be a hell of a story right there. And I know the thread is it's hard to beat a team 3 times. Does it count when there's different starters every single time? You had Cooper Rush versus Jalen Hurts. This week you're going to have Gardner Minshew versus Dak Prescott. And then come the playoffs, it'll be Dak Prescott versus Jalen Hurts. I mean, so maybe that you don't beat a team 3 times theory is invalid in this situation. Maybe. I don't know. Look, we are built. I'm just trying to make sure that this initial, we're going to talk more about this tomorrow. We're built for this situation. We are built to overcome these odds. The one thing our coach does, Nick Sirianni, is convince these guys on a day-to-day basis they are better than the next team. So to wrap this whole story up and this conversation up in a neat bow, I started with with the point that everybody wants to blame somebody. I'm blaming nobody. It's just part of having a quarterback like Jalen Hurts. The risk is always going to be there. And I'm okay with that. As long as you've got that viable option as a backup quarterback. And if Gardner Minshew moves on after this season, Jalen Hurts is going to get the bag. He's going to be the franchise guy going forward. We know that now. But if Gardner Minshew moves on to have a shot at starting somewhere next year, Howie Roseman's going to have to go out and find a viable backup quarterback. Not a Nathan Peterman or whatever that kid's name is. You look at the Cardinals. I mean, they haven't won a lot of football games this year. But they've been manageable. I mean, they lost Kyler Murray and you got Colt McCoy. But they have a bad culture there. Cliff Kingsbury's developed a losing culture there. And there's not enough talent on that team. So you need to be able to go out there and have a great backup quarterback and a winning culture. And you know what? You can continue to win football games. So you take the good with the bad and you don't blame anybody. Again, yes, Shane Steichen should have called more runs to Miles Sanders on Sunday. Yes, Jalen Hurts should not have ran 17 to Miles Sanders 11. But I'm not blaming anybody. Do you really think if Jalen Hurts didn't get hurt, we'd be blaming Shane Steichen as much as we are today? And Nick Sirianni? You put the ball in your best player's hands. That's why A.J. Brown had 16 targets. That's why Jalen Hurts ran the ball 17 times. They're your 2 best offensive players. They need to touch the ball the most times. Yeah, you risk having 16 targets to A.J. Brown versus half that number to the other guys. Yeah, you're risking A.J. Brown getting hurt. That means he was getting hit 16 times. You telling me you don't want to throw the ball to A.J. Brown that many times then? Look, you put the ball in the hands of your best players. That's how you win football games. So I don't blame anybody. Question it, sure. But for the next 10 years, 10 years, Jalen Hurts is going to be our starting quarterback. And every year, we're going to have these same conversations. There's going to be games where Jalen Hurts touches the ball a lot. And he's going to put his body in harm's way a lot. And he's going to take a lot of unnecessary risks. But the risks are worth the rewards. That's why we're 13-1 right now. Favorite to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC. At least the NFC Championship game. You take the good with the bad. It's a risk-reward situation. So there's no blame in my opinion. We're going to take a quick pause in the action because today's show is brought to you by Gents Barber Lounge. Check out one of their 2 great locations, Fishtown and Old City. Book your appointment today. They own the craft and it shows. Rated the #1 barbershop on Yelp in the Philadelphia area. Able to handle any style cut, adult or kid. Check out some of their great work right here. And we're back here, trending in the AM, right here on DSM Media. Live, as always, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Turn those notifications on all social media platforms, but specifically on YouTube. We greatly appreciate that. I am Phil Stifle. We're going to reset here for a second. We just spent the first... today was supposed to be a Sixers-centric show, and I just spent the first 40 minutes talking Jalen Hurts. And we will get back It's going to be the topic every day this week, the Jalen Hurts injury, the Gardner Minshew situation. So we'll get back to that conversation tomorrow. Going to try to bring some people on to help discuss this, to see if I'm on the right track. And hit me up on Twitter, @BeardedOdds. Am I wrong that I'm not blaming anybody? It's just part of the risk reward of having Jalen Hurts, of having him as your starting quarterback. So we'll continue to talk about that. We'll continue talking about Gardner Minshew. We'll continue talking about the Dallas Cowboys game as the week goes on. But I want to spend 15, 20 minutes at least here talking Sixers. Won their 5th game in a row last night on this homestand. They're in the back end of a 7-game homestand. I joked at the start of this homestand, would it be nice if they went 6-1 or 7-0? But realistically, 5-2 would be acceptable on this homestand. Start building something here. They're 5-0 on this homestand now. I joked, wouldn't it be great if they went like 8-3 on they had a 7-game homestand followed by a 4-game road trip, 11 games. If they could go 9-2 or 8-3, it would be great. Well, now they got a realistic chance at it. As they beat the Toronto Raptors last night in overtime, 104-101. Gets their record to 17-12. They're still stuck in the 5 seed because everyone else from the 3 seed right to the 8 seed, everybody's winning right now in the Eastern Conference. The top 8 teams wise. The bottom end of the conference, they're losing a lot. Well, the Raptors are in the 8 seed and they've lost like 7 or 8 in a row now. Like 9 out of their last 11. So they're falling down. But outside, so 7 through 3, they're all winning. I have no faith in the Sixers. Joe, this right here sums up how I feel so much. They won last night. They've won 5 in a row. But it took overtime to win to a Raptors team on a back-to-back. So they played in Toronto on Monday. Well, hold on. What's today? Today's Tuesday. So they played in Toronto on Sunday, had to fly to Philly, play in Philly on Monday. They also played on Friday night. So they played 3 of the last 4 days. They have lost 9 of their last 11 games. They are playing bad basketball. The Sixers should have dismantled the Raptors last night. Now, the Raptors always give the Sixers fits because their team is built a certain way. They have 97 guys that are 6'8", 6'9", athletic wing players. We don't have a single athletic wing player. We don't have a single 6'8" guy that could just 3 and D. That's pretty much all they have. They don't have a traditional center. They barely have a traditional point guard in Fred VanVleet. Gary Trent's always banged up. Patrick Siakam had a phenomenal game last night. 38 points, 15 rebounds, 6 assists. But it shouldn't have come to that. Last night, you had a run. Tobias Harris, 42 minutes. Joel Embiid, 42 minutes. James Harden, 42 minutes. Melton, 41. P.J. Tucker, 39 minutes. Hell, you couldn't give the bench any time. The bench was just atrocious again last night. I know the numbers don't show awful, but they were awful defensively last night. This team is going to come up small in the playoffs if something drastic doesn't change. There's no scenario in my mind. And there's points in the game where the Sixers they were leading in the first half 12, 13, 14 points. The Raptors would cut it to 9 or 8. Then they'd get back up by 13. It just had everything had written on it. The Sixers were just going to come out in the third quarter and just dominate and put this game away. Old school load management. Then the Raptors won the third quarter by 11 and got back into this game. And it's because his team has so much talent. There's so much talent on this team, at least top heavy. Yet, you got Doc Rivers. And again, we were up. At the end of the third quarter to the start of the fourth quarter, they went on a huge run, the Raptors. Why? Because Doc Rivers did it again. You had an entire bench lineup He went out there, and for about 3 to 4 minutes of game action, and we got crushed in that. He ran Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle, Montrezl Harrell, Daniel House Jr., and George Niang. I can't take it anymore with this. I don't understand what Doc Rivers thinks is okay with having Embiid, Harris, and Harden. And when he comes back, because he did it when he was healthy, Maxey all on the bench at the same time. He says it should never happen. He says he won't do it. Hell, Doc Rivers says he won't have two of them not on the court at the same time. But yet he does it. All the time. So James Harden, Joel Embiid, they put out all this effort. Tobias Harris is having a fantastic stretch of games right now. Fantastic. The last week or two, Tobias Harris is the MVP of this team. Knocking down three-point shots better than ever before in his career. They do all this work to get a lead, and Doc Rivers ruins it. I mean, Shake Milton has been very good in the absence of Tyrese Maxey. But yet when he's the best player on the court, when you're running all bench lineup, it was a minus 16 last night. Why? Because he was the best option on the floor the whole time. That's not good. When Shake Milton's playing opposite of James Harden, sure. Or if he's got Joel on the court with him, sure. Tyrese Maxey is a huge loss right now. I get it. But you're telling me Doc Rivers can't figure out what to do with Matisse Thybulle again? We talked about this last week. Matisse Thybulle's had some really good games this year, and he gets a little bit of confidence. Then the next game, last night, he played 7 minutes. And I knew it right away. I forget at what point. He came in off the bench, and he was on the court for like 2 minutes. Missed a layup, missed an open three-point shot, took a bad foul on defense. I'm like, Doc's going to bench him now for the rest of the game because he had a really bad 2-minute stretch there. That's the problem. And this was the thing with the Phillies when Joe Girardi was still in control of this team. And we talked about it. Bryson Stott knew that if he went over 4 one game, the next 3 games he was going to see the bench for Didi Gregorius. Or Alec Boehm had a bad game. He was going to see the bench for Camargo or whatever. The bullpen didn't know what their roles were. The Sixers have the same problem. P.J. Tucker should not be playing 39 minutes. Now, he's played better since James Harden has come back. I get that. But you got a 37-year-old guy playing 39 minutes in a game? Look, I'm no George Niang lover, but I said this was the thing last year. George Niang was playing 30 minutes a game, and he was burnt by playoff time. And he only played 11 last night. So did Daniel House. Daniel House, you guys know, I'm not a Daniel House fan. I said the day they signed him, he's not that special. He was not an improvement over what we had. But you can play P.J. Tucker for 39 minutes and Daniel House for 11 last night and Matisse Thybulle for 7. This is all on Doc Rivers. I know you're saying it. The problem is that the pulse runs through Embiid. Embiid's had, look, ever since I called out Embiid, he's been the MVP of the league. He has been. But the problem is that Doc Rivers, we just spent 40 minutes talking about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and having a winning culture, that the next man up mentality. Everybody's got everybody's back. What's the complete opposite with the Sixers? It's a losing mentality that Doc Rivers has instituted. They know that if Joel Embiid doesn't go for 55 points, James Harden doesn't drop a triple-double, there's a chance they lose the basketball game. They don't have a winning system in place. Too many times. I mean, they had a chance to win it in regulation. 5 seconds left. Whenever there's a last-second shot for the Sixers up against a shot clock or the end of a quarter, end of half, end of the game, 9 times out of 10, somebody's going to get the ball 10 feet behind the three-point line and not know what to do with it. He's hung up on his past success, absolutely. He only really had success, though, in Boston. That was a long time ago. How a team could be so unprepared out of the stop timeouts at the end of quarter, end of a game, it blows my mind. When you've got James Harden, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, who's shooting lights out, and you have no clue what to do. There's so many instances where James Harden's got the ball, or Joel Embiid's got the ball at the top of the arc, and everybody's just standing there. Nobody's cutting. Nobody's moving. Nobody's setting screens. It's a problem. Basically, the Sixers' offensive philosophy is get the ball across the court, and somebody has to play hero miracle ball every single possession. Because that's what you see. You see Tobias Harris making fadeaway three-point shots at the end of the shot clock. You see James Harden holding the ball until 5 seconds left in the shot clock, and then dumping it to Joel, who has got to make a miraculous trip shot or fall to the floor and catch a foul. There is no offensive system. There is no offensive game plan. Nobody knows what to do. What's a pick and roll? When it's James Harden and Joel Embiid, it works. But there's too much standing around. Too much isolation. That's not the way the NBA... You look at the Raptors last night. And all the cutting that team does and all the movement that offense has. I look at the Raptors and I look at the Sixers. Yeah, the Sixers are a better team. Their record's better. But long-term success, the Raptors are built better. We need some of those. I'm going to hit up one of them. I got a Raptors beat reporter that I'm friends with. I'm going to social media friends with. I'm going to send him a message after the show. Is there a trade that can be worked out? The Raptors are struggling. Get us one of those guys. Get us a wing, athletic wing. But this is on the coach. It's also on the league. It's also on Joel and James as well. But this is on the coach. And again, I feel like I always talk Sixers in a negative light after a win. But it's because, as Joe said earlier, he has no faith. I have no faith. They're on a 5-game winning streak. They got Detroit tomorrow. Another game that they should win. They should get that to a 6-game winning streak. I should be confident. I should be excited. I should feel good about the Sixers team. But even in winning, I feel defeated. And let's be honest, guys. Doc's not going anywhere. Doc will be the coach of this team through the entirety of this season. It's unfortunate, but it's the way it's going to be. Because Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers are tied at the hip here. They're all in this season. And I say it before, I worry about a bold trade. You look at the NBA standings right now. Let me pull them up here real quick. I guess you could call Toronto. I mean, they're struggling bad. They've lost 6 in a row, 2 of their last 8. Or 2 of their last 10, they've only won. The Bulls have fallen apart. Hell, the Washington Wizards have now lost 10 in a row. Maybe you can make a trade. I don't know. I'm going to do a little trade research stuff today. See, somebody want DeMar DeRozan, but he's not. We need somebody that's athletic. Slasher. Dunker. We need a young Andre Iguodala. We need somebody. We need Patrick Siakam. No, they're not going to give him up. Look, I want to spend a minute talking about Patrick Siakam. We talked about it in the playoffs last year against the Raptors. And again last night, man. Kid's a talented player. They haven't built around him in Toronto properly. But damn, how he gets away with the push-offs that he gets pushed, he gets away with. He has one offensive move. He puts his elbow out, he pushes off, and he hits the step-back fadeaway. He does it well because he gets away with it 10 times a game. But damn, it was annoying again to see it last night in person. Well, not in person, on TV. Like, seriously, the refs are cracking down on traveling. They're cracking down on kickouts. They're cracking down on everything. But yeah, Patrick Siakam still, he's got the little, what was that Seinfeld thing when George, he was faking a twitch in his arm. He's got that little twitch, little chicken arm there. Just pops out. gets him his space, but it's not even like subtle. He literally, you watch him extend his arm. It's offensive passive interference. And he does it every time down the court. And he scored 35 plus points. Had a near triple double last night. Kid's good. Damn good. But please, NBA referees, can we crack down on that? See what kind of player he'd be if that wasn't allowed, if that was called? Somehow we pulled out a win. We did. And there was a chance. I mean, it was a 3-point game. They had a shot late in the, at the end there to tie it up and send it to double overtime. I'd be even more pissed if it went to double overtime. I'd have less sleep. But something has to give. Now, maybe it is. Tyrese Maxey comes back, gives us a jolt. But it still doesn't solve our bench, which we have bench issues. It does not solve the energy. Now, maybe it will be a trade. Maybe you trade Matisse Thybulle. Maybe you trade Tobias Harris. Look, I love Tobias. And he's having a fantastic stretch right now. There's no doubt about it. But maybe you sell high on Tobias Harris right now. I'm pulling up Tobias' stats right now. Tobias is up to 17 points a game. His shooting percentages. He's shooting 42% from three right now. That's the highest it's been in a long time. I don't know. It might be the highest of his career. He was a 37% career shooter. He's at 42% this year. But I think in his last 10 games, yeah, he's shooting 55% from deep in his last 10 games. Maybe you sell high on Tobias and try to find. Look, the Raptors aren't going to trade you Patrick Siakam for Tobias Harris. That's obvious. But is there a Patrick Siakam type out there? Is John Collins? I think he's hurt right now, John Collins, with the Hawks. But is there that athletic four that you could get for Tobias Harris that could bring something a little different to this team? 3-and-D type wing guy. I don't know who it is. But they need it. Because I think that 3-and-D wing slasher, their big thing is athleticism. And athleticism translates to energy. Tobias Harris, when he's knocking down shots, yeah, he's pumping his chest and all. But it's different. It's that in-game spark that we need. So maybe it's a Tobias Harris trade that has to happen. I'd hate to say it, but it might be. But something has to happen. Because otherwise, it's going to be a quick exit from the playoffs again. It's going to be a long, long winter to get to the playoffs. Because every week, we're going to see this. I know, again, we're on a 5-game winning streak. But yet here we are saying there's still problems with this team. He's absolutely too hot and cold. That's why I mean, it breaks my heart to say it. But you sell high. His value is never going to be higher than it is right now. He's got only a year and a half left. A year and a half left on his contract. So it's not as big of an albatross as it used to be. So maybe you sell high. You look at Washington. You look at Chicago. You look at Toronto. Teams that are falling under expectations. And you try to find a partner to make a deal. I mean, West Coast guys. I mean, I don't know who would need. Could Dallas use them? Is there a trade partner there? Utah Jazz, maybe. The Lakers, they lost Anthony Davis again for an extended period of time. You got Detroit coming into town. Did you pluck Sadiq Bey away from Detroit? Oh. Give Tobias Harris and Matisse Thybulle on a first-round pick in like 2031 when we have our next first-round pick for Sadiq Bey. Give me that. I don't know. There's got to be a move that can be made to spark the energy on this team, to spark the emotion of this Sixers team. We'll talk more Sixers tomorrow as well, as we'll get set for the game against Detroit and see if they can continue this winning streak. We're going to wrap up Trending in the AM right there. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. I greatly appreciate it. Again, like, share, follow, comment on all social media platforms. Make sure you hit the YouTube page and hit the subscribe button. Turn notifications on. We're greatly 10 away from 700. we get there today? I'd greatly appreciate it if we did. So tell a friend, tell everybody you see, get them to subscribe to the DSM Media YouTube page. I greatly appreciate it. This is Trending in the AM. I am Phil Stifle. Follow me on Twitter at Bearded Knowledge. Hit me up with your thoughts on this show. I greatly appreciate that as well. Be back tomorrow. More Eagles, more Jalen Hurts talk, more Sixers talk. 8:30 a.m. Everybody have a great day. Go Birds.